Hey, I'd already shown y'all my new Polaris Razor Turbo, and I thought I'd show you a couple of things while I was working on it here. I'm not going to video the whole thing, but I'm just going to show you some tips if you're new to these. These things are a lot easier to wire than the old ones. I've already put my radio in, and you can get into these tubes. There's a hole right here. There's one down underneath there. I'll show you how to get to it under the plastic, and then it comes out here. And these little radio covers, they just unsnap, and they come down here, and there's a hole that comes out right here and goes into and you can go right into the dash. And the Razors has the new, I forget what they call these things. Okay, here it is. These are just connectors that connect into a bus bar. And the new Polaris has a bus bar in here. Let's see if I can show it to you. Turn my light on and move it. But you can see that bus bar. And you see where I've already plugged one on the left, and I got, I think, 5 more. 1, 2, 3, 5 more spots there. But you can see the black, red, the blue coming out. The black is ground, the red is power from the ignition, and the blue actually powers the light on your rocker switch from the ignition. So if you turn the ignition on, here, I'll show you, I've already hooked up my radio. So if you turn the ignition on, the radio light comes on. Turn it off, it goes off. And so you just hook the blue wire to your light on your rocker switch, and it'll turn that on and off. And if I want to turn the radio on, which you can see my radio's up here, but we flip that switch and it turns blue. Now I can come up here and turn my radio on. I have a UHF radio in mine. We do a lot of riding with the group, and that way we can talk. And I've got one in my other 2 Razors too. But yeah, that bus bar is great. But I'll show you one other thing here. Let me turn my key off here. I want to get a bunch of music playing and not be able to, they'll flag my video for music playing. But you can see where I hooked up my lights here, and they have a place right here, and there's a hole down in there. I don't know if you can see that down in there, but you have to drill this out. But I use those holes that are already there on my other Razor over there, and this is not as bad as the other ones. The other ones are so close that you don't have room to get. And I'll show you if you walk over here. You can see how little room there is between there. So when you're trying to get your cooler in and out, you have to turn it sideways or come around in front of it. And I just don't like that. So on my new one, turn the light off there. So on my new one, I bought these. These were about 20 bucks, 10 bucks. It comes as a pair for 20 bucks or so off Amazon. And they just screw to this, and it gives you, so it puts them out wide. And you can angle them or whatever angle, because that one's not too bad. It doesn't stick up too high. But if I'd have put them here straight up, they stick up higher, and this thing's already higher than that. And so I angled mine back a little bit. I like the angle a little better on it. Just my personal preference. But you can, there's one bolt here, one torque screw, T40 I believe it is, and then there's a couple of clips, and then this will come up and you can get in here. I took that up for nothing. You really don't need it other than for your wire if you wanted, but I wanted to get it over here, and you couldn't get that through there, so I still took that up. But you can get in the pipe right there. Hopefully you can see that. This is kind of hard angles, but there's a hole right there in your tubing, and I ran that up, and it goes all the way over and across and comes out right here and goes straight in there where my bus bar is. So it's real easy to run that wiring, and for that, so that's the only wire I have to run to the front. The other wires just run from, of course you got your little box, your control box or whatever they call it, and then there's a wire for each thing. So I'm not sure how I'm gonna get it over there. I'm probably gonna have to go through here somewhere. I don't really want to get on that motor, but I'm sure I can probably get up under here somehow, but I'll figure that out. But I wanted to show you what I'd already done. Makes it real easy to run your wiring. I brought there's my antenna for my UHF radio. It went in the tube right there. Maybe you can see that, I hope so. And it comes down and comes out of the tube. There's a hole right there too. It runs over, and of course I ran my power over and went in that tube as well and went down and hooked into my bus bar back down in there. So there it is. I just thought I'd share that with you. Makes it real easy to run your wiring and stuff than it was before, especially hooking it up, because you just connect to that bus bar, and it makes it real easy to hook the light on your rocker switch as far as the power too, and they all go to the right place. And you do have to be careful. Don't hook your power on that rocker switch to the blue. Make sure you hook it to the red, because the blue is only for the light and the ignition. I think it's only 10 amps or something. And if you hook it to the red on the rocker switch, you get, I think it's 30 or 40 amps, I forget. But if you hook something up that pulls some amps, or if you get several things hooked up in there, it'll probably pull too many amps and flip your breaker or your fuse or whatever for your ignition. So just be careful with that. I saw that I learned that from another video I watched on somebody wiring this stuff. But there it is. Anyway, hopefully that's helpful to you. I thought I'd do that while I had it apart, where it's real easy to show to you. And these things just push down in there, and there's a little, if you just grab this right here and pull, it'll snap out of there. And just don't pull too hard and break your wire. Make sure you unplug your wire. There's a little push pin on there you have to push for it to unsnap. Then you can just pull this up out of the way like I did. But it's real convenient for running your wires and stuff. You don't have wires running all over, or trying to run it underneath, or trying to come through your, I saw people running them all through here, and you just don't really have to do that. If you just want to, you can fish it through that tubing on your cage. But there it is. Hopefully that's helpful to you. Okay, here's another tip that I discovered when I went to put this back in. Right underneath here, when you pull this out, there's some little feet that slide underneath there, and I couldn't get them back in. So if you just take these 3 bolts out right here, you really may not even have to take them out, but I had to take them out to lift up just enough to slide that down in there. You just get your hand right there, and you can lift enough, and then it'll slide right in. So a little tip there, because I tried to get that in there, and I didn't want to scratch anything trying to pry on it or crack anything. So I took 3 screws out right there, and then I could lift up on it. Now if you don't have the wide fenders, that's all you got to do. If you have the wide fender, like me, you got to take it off first, so there's a few extra screws. So it wasn't very difficult to take off there. You shouldn't have any problem with that. There's a bunch of push pins. There's only 2 or 3 screws, but there's a dozen. All those holes on there are push pins. You have to pop the little pin out and then pull it out. But yeah, that's a nice little tip, because that'll save you some trouble there, because I like to never figured that out. Okay, here's another tip. When you go to put this back in, instead of taking this whole bumper off, all I did was I took 1, 2, you can see those screws, 1, 2, and come back here, and there's 1, 2, and there's a push pin right there. And you don't have to take all those push pins out there. What I did was I took this tool and just pushed in there, pushed down right here, and pushed in there, and I could pick up on that and angle it up, and I was able to slide that back in there. So that keeps you from having to take that whole bumper off. If you don't have this bumper, it's easy. You just take those 2 screws out, and you can get hand in right there and lift it up. But if you got these bigger bumpers, you see I can get it down, but that thing keeps you from getting your hand in there. You need to press up right in there. So I use something, you need something angled like this right here, and just get it up under there and push up on it, and that did it. So just makes it a little easier than having to take that whole bumper off. Anyway, thought I'd show you that since I figured that out. And you can see it's down in there nice and flush now. That little lip, there's just a little lip right around here that goes underneath, and this comes over the top, and that keeps the water out, I guess. So there it is.